It took overtime, but the Avs have a 1-0 series lead in the Stanley Cup Final after a thrilling finish Wednesday night. Andrei Burakovsky playing hero for Colorado by netting the game winner, so finishing off a strong effort by his team on home ice. And they did a good job. I'll give them credit for that. Let me get rid of that. That they held off an impressive comeback effort by the Lightning. RotoWire's Paul Bruno and AJ Scholz, two of the best dudes to talk hockey with. They are joining us now. Little sticky puck action. AJ, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you liked Colorado to win it last night, right?
I believe that's accurate. Team USA going up against a pair of Canadians yesterday. But we had it right for the home side.
You
here.
did.
But I mean,
you did a great job. I mean, how do you think the Avs were actually able to get it done too? And I think what was even more impressive is not even them getting out to the hot start, but holding off Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the big key was that hot start. I mean, everybody was speculating, myself included, how good were they going to be in the opening period because they've been, off for so long. They clearly prioritized that and brought it there. Obviously, when that happens, a lot of times in like the second period, you'll see a team kind of sputter out a little bit because they bring so much energy in the first period. They were able to kind of power through that, play through that, and get to Vasilevsky. That was the key here for them. So I do think the strong start is what set them up well, gave them the momentum, and then they were just able to last the rest of the game and into overtime.
Yeah, what do you think, Paul? I mean, even AJ was wise enough yesterday to, fade the Lightning netminder.
You know what? That was a good call, as it turned out. A number of the Avs forwards did what they normally do, and that's skate like the wind and put on offensive pressure. I didn't expect that early on. I thought that they would try and get into the pool at the shallow end, but they went right into the deep end. It was telling in the way that the three stars were Burakovsky, Landeskog, and Rantanen. Odd that it was an Avalanche sweep, though, in an overtime game, but that's the way it sometimes goes in that particular gambit. But I thought Nichushkin was their best player, leading the club by a wide margin in total shot attempts, while also leading the team with 6 shots on goal. And that was my call yesterday that went well. I didn't see much from the Lightning offensive leaders, Kucherov and Stamkos particularly. Didn't find their way near the prime scoring opportunity areas all night long. And we saw that big territorial edge for Colorado that I expected. But the goalie wasn't really tested that much. I was surprised by that. A key element for me, though, guys, was the fourth line usage. Colorado only used their guys for about 6 or 7 minutes. Tampa went a lot heavier, of almost 12 minutes across the board for their fourth liners. I think that had to do with something about getting used to playing at altitude. I think with a couple of days off, you're going to see a different Tampa team in game 2.
Well, Paul, it was also refreshing to see Braden Point returning to the Lightning lineup. He's missed a couple series here, had almost 18 minutes of ice time, and was on the power play as well. And then there's Darcy Kemper, who returned in net for Colorado. He got the Game 1 victory, as we know by now. But what impressed you the most about those two guys last night and their performances?
Well, I watched Point very closely, and I thought he looked like he was in pretty good form. He seemed engaged, playing with the usual fire that he brings every night. The edge and pace was there. Maybe he was gasping for air in the late stages, though. I don't know. But I thought he was engaged and looked like he's I'm expecting to be a bigger factor as the series goes on. I like what I saw to him. I find it hard to evaluate Kemper, though, guys, because I really didn't think Tampa got that many great scoring chances on him. Not unusual for the guy, though, because he plays behind this team all year long, and there were a number of games that went this way for him. So very hard to get a read on him. I think we're going to see more attack mode from Tampa, and that'll get us a better gauge on where his game is at in game 2.
Yeah, AJ, I mean, Kemper faced 23 shots in 3+ periods of hockey, and he allowed 3 goals. I mean, and you look at some of the underlying numbers, it's actually even worse for him there. I think there's still some concern for him between the pipes.
Yeah, I mean, Paul kind of alluded to it. There were only 8 high danger chances for the Lightning in that game. So they really did not bring it to Kemper there. So I think that's what we could expect out of him, though. I mean, Darcy Kemper is not going to steal games for them. His role is just to keep them close enough to let the offense do its job. And that's what they did last night. So I'm not too worried. If they really get into a bind, Pavel Francouz looked okay in the previous series, kind of the same role, game manager, if you will, to use an NFL term.
All right, guys. Well, as we look ahead here to the next game, game 2 is going to be Saturday night. Last night, Not many of the stars found the back of the net. Are you looking at any of them, though, to score for like a goal prop in Game 2 on Saturday night? The numbers, as of this moment, are not out on the DK Sportsbook, but despite whatever the odds are, do you like someone to light the lamp on Saturday night, Paul?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw a quiet effort for Stamkos and Kucherov. I don't think you're going to see 2 in a row out of them. So sprinkling a little money on both of them makes sense to me. And then McKinnon took a couple of periods to get started himself last night. Wound up with 5 shots on goal and looked pretty good by the end. I think you'll see a better effort of him. And Cale Makar might have been the biggest no-show of the 4 big guns. I know he plays defense for this team, but he's a big part of their offense. We all know that. But it was hard to find him on the ice last night, even though Colorado did win.
Okay, AJ, what do you think here, dude? Who do you think has a good shot putting the biscuit in the basket?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Paul. I mean, it might be worth just taking everybody. Honestly, the odds should be good enough for that to be a viable option. But if you're going to just pick one, for me, it's Nathan McKinnon. 5 shots on goal. He's averaged about 6.5 over the last 3 games here. So I really think he's going to keep shooting the puck. And so for me, if I'm just picking one of these guys, it's probably McKinnon to score a goal. But out of the 4, I really think you could bet all 4 and reasonably cash out anyway.
All right, well, we do have Conn Smythe odds available right now up on the DK Sportsbook. So Cale Makar, Paul, who you said kind of just disappeared last night, is still the favorite here, actually tied with Nathan McKinnon at plus 140. Then there's Andrei Vasilevsky, who has won this thing before, at plus 600. How much interest do you have in maybe fetching a little bit of value with some of these Tampa Bay guys after a Game 1 loss, AJ?
Well, I was on possibly taking Kucherov at plus 400, so there's no reason not to double down on that. I still think the Lightning have a good chance to win this series. I mean, nothing major comes out of this for them, right? Like, they still have 3 games at home, still have 2 opportunities to pick one up on the road versus Colorado, so it's not a huge loss for them in that sense. And so if they win the series, I think Kucherov hands down is the guy. So if I was on him at plus 400, might as well stick with him at plus 600.
Okay, maybe Steven Stamkos plus 5,000, a little bit of a sleeper, Paul?
I love that call. That's exactly where I was going, because the guy, it's his turn. He didn't have much to do with the last one of the playoff runs where he was limited to 1 shift, if you'll recall. And this year he's leading the club in offense. So in terms of the goal scoring side anyway, picking up some key goals along the way. And I just think we're seeing a lot of leadership out of him in this postseason. And that's a factor, too, that'll weigh in. Sentimental choice, too, no doubt. 3rd time if they win it. And he will be represented well in the voting if that turns out. But if you favor Colorado, I'd be looking at Gabriel Landeskog, their captain. He's, again, playing a big role. See, this guy is also their captain, and it could be a leadership thing that decides this issue. So I'm looking at the captains on both sides here.
All right, last one here, guys. What's the early lean on the DK Sportsbook for Game 2? So Colorado, the favorites at home, minus 150 there on the money line. Goal total at 6 right now, Paul.
You know what? Tampa needs to win this game. I don't see them, either team, winning a streak of 4 or 5 games in this series. So I don't think they want to give Colorado the 2-0 edge, even though it is on the road. And they would come home for the next 2. I like the money line bet. It's still an attractive one. It's been fluctuating between plus 130 and plus 150 in the last 24 hours. Still looks like a solid play for me. I think the Bolts looked a little tired. And remember, playing at the high altitude is a factor, and they may not have accounted for that in their preparation as they probably should have. They'll be better prepared in Game 2. And I'm still going to give Colorado a lot of credit for the way they played, coming off a long layoff. But I do think we're in for a long series, and that means that Tampa needs to answer the bell in the 2nd game.
All right, AJ, I know it's only Thursday, Game 2 Saturday, but what's an early lean you have right now?
I like the over in this game at 6, minus 110. You've got the push still in play. I wouldn't be surprised to see that move to 6.5 as we get closer to the game. So a good opportunity to jump on this one. We saw 7 goals in Game 1. I really think it's possible we could see some more high-scoring games in Colorado. When the series shifts back to Tampa, I would take the under. Vasilevsky just seems to play better at home here. But for now, heading into Game 2, I do like the over.